I'm your host of SPD Fanatics, Keith Cunningham, and today's special guest has an impressive track record with over 20 million records sold worldwide. His production credits include major artists like Chingy, Ludacris, Crazy Bone, Nas, E40, Janet Jackson, and Britney Spears, among many others. He's also earned a Grammy Award nomination for his contribution to Usher's Confession album. Beyond music, he's worked on film soundtracks for Shark Tale, iRobot, Coach Carter, and more. Please join me in welcoming certified diamond and platinum producer from the Trak Starz, Shamar, Sham, Daugherty to the show.
Peace, bro. Peace.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure and honor to have you here, man.
Same here. Yes, I'm glad to see you again. It's been a long time.
Yeah, man, it's been a long road travel, man. From back in the day.
Yeah.
For the viewers, now you know a lot of individuals that I talk to, and a lot of people from St. Louis had that background where they grew up in the hood where it's crime ridden, and you know a lot of gang banging and a lot of drugs and a lot of different things going on, single parenting home and all that. But you grew up in a middle-class family in St. Louis. But can you tell us what the culture and environment was like during that time? Because we know that even though you had that connection with family in the home, outside the home, it's a whole different story on the block.
Oh, yeah, man. We, I grew up in the city when our whole family was in the city when we were kids. And then, my mom and dad decided to move out in the county. And anybody in St. Louis know Hazelwood, North County, that's considered the county, areas of St. Louis. So we end up moving to the county when I was probably about maybe, I want to say 5 or 6 or somewhere in there. And I can't remember really back that far, but I do remember when I got to the county, I knew it was a lot different than the city, especially back then. Back then, the city was almost considered to be, North County was almost considered to be like Clayton and Chesterfield back then. It was really nice, I went to Hazelwood Central High School. It was like mostly white students. It was kind of half and half, so it was really nice. So it was like a real culture shock coming from that to North County, when we came out. So yeah.
Yeah, man, I kind of recall when I came from the city and we moved into the county. We moved into the Normandy, Ferguson, Normandy area, and we talking like had to be like 78. We was like 78, 79. We was like the first or second black family on the block. So you know what that experience like. I can identify with what you saying.
Yeah, it was definitely a big change. It's different now. I mean,
yeah,
like a city out in North County now,
Yeah. So when did you first decide that music production was your path? What sparked your passion to start making beats and producing?
Man, I'm gonna tell you a funny story that most people don't believe me when I tell this story, but I remember riding with my dad. We was coming from downtown. I don't know if he was coming from a Cardinal baseball game or something like that, but we was coming from downtown. And I remember passing through the north side, it's like where Beacon and Walnut Park area is, right off, I believe, 70. And as we coming down the highway, I see somebody DJing, and in the backyard, it was like a house party or something in the north side. And all I heard was, I just heard the scratching, and he was like making a beat with the turntables. I'm just this kid, and we were stuck in traffic, and I'm just looking at it, vibing to the music. And I seen that, and I said, you know what? I want to try to do that, but I don't want to be a DJ per se. I'm going to, make beats or whatever. And what's funny is when I finally got older to find out more information about that day later, it ended up being DJ Cool Odie, So,
okay.
Because I always tell Cool Odie that he'd be like, for real? I'd be like, yeah, bro, like you the reason that sparked me, man. I seen you in that backyard DJing in that car, and it always stuck with me. And I just went home with this attitude, like I want to do beats and want to make music. Yeah.
You never know where somebody's influence is coming from.
Yep.
Yeah. And well, I remember meeting you for the first time. We had a mutual friend, Melvin Parker.
Hmm.
Real good dude, man. R.I.P. to Big Mel, man.
Yes, sir.
We
Rest in
lost
peace, man.
lost a good one. Yeah. We came over to the house in North County that you spoke about, and it had to be in the late '90s, and you was in the garage with the MPC, and
Yeah.
you was making beats, and we went over to the house to check you out, and it just freestyle, and then just have some fun listening to some music or whatever. But that was my first introduction to meeting you.
Yeah, that was if I recall at that time, yeah, that's when I was like really first getting started,
Hmm.
production. I believe around the time that I met you through Big Mail, I was just leaving the group. I was in a rap group called Out of Order. And Out of Order, we were signed with a record label in St. Louis called PD Wax Records. Anybody in that era knows and remember us. We had a song with Twister called "Work Some Twerk Some." We had a song with Lil Jon called "Work That Thing," and we had a full album about at that time. So I believe when I met you and Big Mel brought you, I was kind of like transitioning from that. I believe.
And that album too was it 2000 AD? What was it? 2000 AD era of Triple Losses. What
Yes.
was it?
Yep.
Yeah,
Eric
yeah.
Closest. Yep.
Now, how did you guys end up getting that collaboration with having Twister and Lil Jon and the East Side Boys on that project?
Well, to kind of take you back a little bit, me, my cousin, KP, J Damage, and No No, like we were determined to get a record deal. And something I used to do is I used to go up to Street Side Records and I would get CDs and I would go to the back of the CDs and I would get numbers and addresses out the CDs. So I'm going through their collection one day and I run across this PD Wax CD. So I see PD Wax information in the back of the CD, got his phone number, got the address, and I called him and end up walking one of our demo tapes over to their office, and he ends up signing us. So so basically, when we signed with PD Wax Records, he had already had connection to a lot of people in the music industry prior to us because they were already working on projects and traveling, and the label was pretty solid before we got to them. So PD already had a lot of connections, and then too, I have to give shouts out to Kool-Aid, to DJ Kool-Aid and Biscuit, because Kool-Aid and Biscuit, who were working with PD Wax at the time, they had a lot of connections in the music industry. So Kool-Aid actually knew Lil Jon, and he knew Twister. He knew Big Fub, who was Twister's manager, and so he was the one that connected that situation for us, and the rest was history.
I had interviewed DJ Charlie Chan not too long ago, and he
Mm-hmm.
was talking about I think he was talking about Biscuit. Back in the day, it was him and DJ Kool-Aid and a lot of the local DJs who are now still doing stuff. He's DJing for Run DMC right now, and I think he was working with Biscuit also, I believe.
Yeah, I
Uh,
believe that Biscuit, was doing like road management and was helping Chan with security and stuff like that. So I remember Biscuit working with Chan. I remember that.
so you guys did that project, and then you I believe later on, not too long from that, you guys transitioned into the whole nine.
Yeah,
Now,
so the whole Nine project was after the Out of Order situation. So basically, to backtrack a little bit, we put an album out under PD Wax. We was offered several record deals, but some things just didn't work out at that time. So prior to that, I believe that he was shopping us to it was a guy named Steve Rick, and anybody know Steve Rick? He was the one that signed the Wu-Tang Clan. So Steve was interested in us. Sony, Dave McPherson, who was the vice president up there at Sony at the time, he was interested. So they were shopping us through this. Now this is PD Wax before the whole nine, and then that situation just kind of went like left field, and it just didn't work out. So after that, I ended up leaving the group. And as I was leaving the group, Chaos called me and it was like, look, man, I heard you left the group and, I want you to still, work on some music for a project we doing. So I'm like, cool. So what y'all got going, man? He said, we got this group we forming called the Whole Nine. And I would never forget the day he pulled up in the 100.3 The Beat van in the house I was staying in. And he knocked on the door and was like, man, load your equipment up, man. And I'm finna take you down to the studio and we finna work on some music. So I loaded up my MPC, loaded up everything. and we went down to a studio they had in the city, and that's when we came up with the Nina Pop. No. It was Everybody in the Club Up First. People get that confused too.
Mhm.
The first dance record I did with the whole nine was called Everybody in the Club Up. That's the actual record that they got a deal off of. The remix was the Nina Pop. You know what I'm saying? So basically from there, I end up producing those two records, and then end up producing the whole nine album. And the whole nine ended up getting a deal with MCA Records. So that's basically how that situation happened.
Wow. Now, how did you at that? Now, so you went from. I want you to lay the groundwork as far as even with rapping. You know, what got you into rapping? So I know you said you in North County when you was driving with your dad, you heard the DJ. DJing, and then you said that's what you wanted to do is make beats. But how did you end up rapping?
Man, I remember my brother and my cousins was playing some music at my dad's house one day, and they were playing Rakim, Check Out My Melody. And I remember hearing Check Out My Melody, and I'm just vibing to it, and I'm like, yo, like, you know what I'm saying, I want to rap after hearing Rakim, you know what I'm saying? So after hearing Rakim, I just started writing, and then just started perfecting it, and get more into the art. So that's what that started me off rapping. It's definitely that Rakim record, that specifically Check Out My Melody.
Okay. And then, so how did you meet? How did you form that group? How did you guys get together?
Well, my cousin KP, he was already in the group. The group was called NSC. It was called Northside Coalition before I even joined the group. And basically, if they had a member that his name was Cradell, and he ended up getting into it with them, and and he fell off the group. So my cousin KP hit me up and was like, yo, you want to join the group? And I'm like, cool. So he came over to the house. We met up, played some beats. We all started freestyling and just doing our thing, and it just kind of came together. The chemistry was dope, so it just worked out. So that's basically, they just basically called me. It was like, yo, we lost one of our members, we want to add you in. And yeah, the rest was history.
You guys started doing I know I recall hearing you guys on the radio. So you guys started doing local shows.
Yeah, that was so when we signed with PD Wax Records, that's when that happened. So prior to PD Wax Records, we was Northside Coalition. That's when I told you the story about I went to Streetside Records.
Okay, yeah.
Found they number in the CD. So basically, when we signed to PD Wax Records, it was a compilation that Prem was putting out called Both Sides of the Game, and he featured us on there. We actually had a song with Crucial Conflict on there. There was a lot of artists on that album, and we had Be Legit, Crucial Conflict. I remember Sons of Funk, who was a singing group that was with No Limit. So it was pretty big back, especially for back in that time. So he was like, look, I'm not gonna put y'all out right away, but I'm gonna just feature y'all on this compilation, and then after the compilation, then we'll put the music out. So that's how that happened. So we did the compilation first, and then after the compilation, we came with the Out of Order album after that.
So you went from MCing, and then you decided at a certain point you're gonna transition it over to making beats, and you made the project for the whole nine. Were you done with rapping at that point, or did you just focus on on the production side, or did you still want to kind of do both?
Well, when I was in Out of Order, me and my cousin KP, we did all the beats anyway, so I always was producing. When the group split up and they called me, I wasn't really in the mind of rapping at that time, because that's when the group had just split up and my mind just wasn't there. So when the group split up, that's when I started focusing strictly on music production, after that. So that kind of led me into focusing more on that. And I just started making beats. This is before Chaos came to me. I was just over at the house, making beats and just perfecting my craft with that. I still wanted to rap, but I just kind of put it to a side for a minute just to focus more on that.
So when did Sham and Zoe, also known as Alonzo Lee Jr., when did you guys decide to form the Trak Starz and establish yourselves as one of the industry's leading production team?
I met Alonzo. I'll tell you a funny story on how I met Alonzo. So when I was working on the Whole Nine album, I was in in the back room, in the infamous back room, I'm back there, working on this record. And as I'm working on the record, I get hungry, so I go in the kitchen, get some food, come back to finish the beat, and the MPC is gone. And what's weird about it is, to this day, it wasn't a door open. The MPC was just removed like neatly from that space. Like somebody had to get in there because it was like in a nick of like 5, 6, maybe minutes, because I wasn't in the kitchen that long making the sandwich when I went in there. So when I came back to work on the beat, MPC is gone. So I just basically, we just basically put it off as somebody broke in and stole the drum machine. So I called the manager of the whole nine, whose name was Chuma Black. And I told Chuma, I said, man, somebody stole the drum machine. Like I can't finish this album. You know what I'm saying? So he was like, when did this happen? I said, man, it just happened. So he's like, okay, I got you. So he said, I'm gonna come over, pick you up in the morning, and we're gonna buy you another one. And he was like, just credit that to all the other things that we're working on. I'm like, cool. So he came pick me up that morning, next morning or whatever, and we went up to a music store called Mars Music. So as I Mars Music, Alonzo was working in there. He was selling equipment in there. So I go in there and he walks up to me and I'm like, I need an MPC. So what's funny is he recognized me from Out of Order. So he was like, you the dude in Out of Order, work something, And I'm like, yeah. He was like, I'm a big fan of y'all music. He was like, do you mind if I play you a beat CD? So, remember at that time you had like when you would go into Mars Music or any store like the Guitar Center, like back at that time, you had like a stereo section in there where you would put CDs in there to listen to the speakers. You remember that?
Yeah.
So Zoe took a CD and he popped it in and he played the beats. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. And the rest was just history. I'm like, man, let me get your number, And we just exchanged numbers, and he invited me to a studio, and then we formed the Trak Starz, and that's how that happened.
So was he with a band, Reggae at Will?
Yeah. So prior to me meeting Zoe, he was in a band called Reggae at Will, and he also was in a band called Dr. Chevegas. Now, I met Zoe when he was in Dr. Chevegas. I didn't meet him, when he was in Reggae at Will. But he did play in Reggae at Will at one time, but it was in both of the bands.
That's funny that that you say that, because I used to go see Reggae at Will play all the time.
Oh, really?
I used to, down in the on Euclid, down in the West End, they had a reggae club down there.
Yeah, that little club where you go down there in Viva, something like that.
Yeah. And they had the Dub Club too down here, and I used to go see them play all the time. They played in U City too, and down in the Loop.
Yeah, I remember that.
Which artists? Now you guys are teamed up, and so how did the Trak Starz form? How did you come together with that name? How did all that just come together?
So after I met Zoe at Mars Music, I started coming out to a studio. We started, playing tracks for each other, and just start building. He was like, saying, so what's your next move? And I was like, what's your next move? And then, we were just formulating ideas. So we worked together for about a month. And when we got together, we wasn't the Trak Starz. We were just working on beats, just trying to bring things together. And then I still was in Out of Order. I was kind of not really, I was transitioning away from Out of Order, but we still was working on music together as a group. So Zoe actually produced like 2 or 3 records for us. He was just a fan and wanted to work with us. So he produced a couple of records for us, and it just kind of just soared from there. I want to say probably about 2 or 3 months after that experience is when we kind of just started focusing more on the Trak Starz. As a production team, because before that situation happened, with me and Zoe just actually forming a group, Out of Order we still kind of was trying to make it a little bit, and that's why he produced the record. So after that didn't work, that's when me and Zoe was like, you know what, let's just do beats and focus on getting the situation. So that's kind of just spawned from the Out of Order thing and the whole nine into the Trak Starz.
Okay, so how did you guys come up with that name?
Well, I think one night, we was just drinking one night, and we were just sitting around chilling, like, what can we call ourselves? We was just going through different names, and then, Zoe was like Track, and then I was like, Track Stars, and then Zoe was like Track Stars. Yeah, that's a hard ring. So we just kind of both collabed on it, and it just the ring was dope, and we just stayed with it.
That's a dope name.
Yeah,
That's a dope name.
we wasn't gonna keep the name at first though, because of the Track Boys. We didn't want people to be confused with the Track Boys.
Mm-hmm.
But our manager at the time, which we'll get into in a minute, Shaka Zulu at DTP, we told Shaka, we was like, we don't want to keep the Track Star name because we don't want to clash with the Track Boys. And I remember Shaka calling us back, and he was like, I don't want y'all to change that name. I like it. And he was like, as a matter of fact, my cousin is in a production team in New York called the Track Masters, which is Tone and Folk. So he was like, it's just the universal thing. So don't really worry about that. Just keep the name. And that's how that happened.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys did, man. That name, you can't, when match with beats and stuff, you can't forget that name to go along with the tracks that y'all did.
Yeah. I'm glad, because we was real close to changing it, but yeah, we just at the last minute decided to keep it.
Yeah, so which artist was the first to achieve major success under the production of the Trak Starz?
I'll go back a little bit. So basically, right after me and Zoe formed the Trak Starz, the whole nine, I'm gonna go back a little bit. So the whole nine had got a record deal with MCA Records. Mm-hmm. So it was a guy in St. Louis named Salim Boab, and anybody in St. Louis who remember Salim, he was an A&R that worked at Def Jam, and he was like calling all the labels, calling all the artists, flying down, meeting people and stuff like that. So he had actually met with Out of Order, so it didn't work out. So I ended up keeping a relationship with Salim. Salim ended up connecting me with Shaka Zulu after he had found out that Chaos and Chemo had the deal. Now, because he called me up and was like, do you have a manager? I'm like, no, I ain't got no manager. And he was like, I got somebody that may be interested in what you're doing because he's good at managing producers. And his name is Shaka Zulu, DTP's Ludacris manager. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So Salim ended up taking some beat CDs and that actual album, sent it to Shaka. And that's how we got, the situation with DTP. So as me and Zoe signed, when we signed with DTP, we signed with DTP as producers. A lot of people don't know that Chingy came way after we was with DTP. We had already been with DTP almost 5 or 6 months before Chingy had even came into the picture. We wasn't even looking for an artist, man. We was just working on placements. He had us working on DMX album. He had us working on Ludacris, LL Cool J. It was a lot of stuff that, he was just pitching us to work on. So we was more focused on that. So T Love, who was Nelly's manager, reached out to us. He had found out that we had signed to DTP as producers. And he was like, man, I got this group called Three Strikes. And I want you guys to do a demo for the group. So we was like, cool. So he ended up sending the group over to the house, and Chingy was one of the artists that was in the group. So we ended up producing about 2 or 3 songs. I believe, I think it was about 2 or 3 songs we ended up producing. And we called T Love back. It was like, yo, we got the songs done, but we never could get in contact with T Love. And then shortly after that, Chingy ends up getting into a fight with one of the members of the group. So they just end up splitting up. So we had these songs. We couldn't get in contact with T Love, and everything just fell apart. So Chingy called me one day and was like, I ain't in the group no more. What do you think we go from here? And I was like, well, what do you think about just going solo? We got a deal up at DTP. Maybe I can just, talk to Zoe and bring you in and cut a couple of records. And we could send it to Shaka and see what he think, So I said, let me call Zoe. So I hit up Zoe, and Zoe was cool with it. He like, yeah, let's bring him in and see what we can do. So that's how the Chingy thing happened. That wasn't even planned.
I didn't know that. I didn't know you guys had signed with DTP at that time.
We signed to DTP as producers, the Trak Starz.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we was with DTP for I think probably around, if I'm not mistaken, probably about maybe 6 or 7 months. So right around that 6 or 7 month marker is where Chingy came in. Okay. So we was with them for some time before that happened.
So when did you guys start working on his project? Is that when he was signed to DTP after they heard what you guys was doing?
How that happened was, so when we brought Chingy in, we ended up cutting we cut a bunch of songs. We recorded about 20 songs, but we put 4 songs on a demo tape. So when he came in and everything was cool and we started, creating chemistry, we just started recording. And as we started formulating the songs, we was just going down the list, like, you know, saying, put this song on the demo, put that song on the demo. And Right There happened to be one of the songs on the demo. It wasn't even finished. I think it was just like a verse, you know. So we sent the songs up to him, to Shaka and his brother Jeff Dixon, who was a part of Ebony Sun Management too. We sent it to them, and they got the demo and called us back the next day, and they was like, yo, this song called Right There on it is crazy. And what's funny is we wasn't even pushing for Right There. We was pushing for another record, and they was like, nah, this is the one, you know. So we was like, cool. So they heard, they took another listen to the record and called us back the next day and was like, we want to press this record up on vinyl and put it out. Like, what's his situation with y'all? Is he signed? You know, do y'all have a commitment with him? Does he have a manager? So we basically explained them Chingy's situation and then worked all the business out, and the rest was history. We got Right There mixed, and they put it out on vinyl and just started spreading it around. So that's how that happened.
Now, where did you all do that record at? Where did you produce that record at? Was that here in St. Louis, or was that down in Atlanta?
No, that was in St. Louis. So we produced Chingy whole album in an apartment complex in U City, right off Delmore.
Wow.
So we all lived together in that one apartment. We did everything out of that apartment.
So you guys, as a team, you guys end up staying together, moving together?
Yeah, all three of us. Yeah, we just shacked up because, you know, Chingy mom at the time put him out the house. She kicked him out. I remember picking, and we went over to his mom's house, and all his clothes out in the front yard, and they slung everything out there, and it was raining. We had to pick all his clothes up and stuff, and you know, end up taking them over to the house that we were producing in, and that's how that happened. You know, we just all started living together. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe, man, when you have visions and you have a dream and vision, I think it's always a storm in between you getting to that destiny point. And you had to go through that storm and that trial. I think we all had those storms and trials in the midst of us creating greatness. Could you see yourself where you was going at that particular time when you was working on these different projects?
I've always had a vision, you know what I'm saying? That's one thing with me. Like, I'm very intuitive. Like, I've always felt it. Like, I got a friend named Skip. His production name is Skipper Beats. He actually has a video of me. I don't know if he still got it or not, but I remember. Now, this is way before Chingy, all of this stuff. I was at his studio, and he was filming me, and I was just talking, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm gonna be this producer, and I'm going to put this artist out. We're going to sell millions of records. And Skip was like, you don't got an artist. Like, and I was like, well, I'm going to get one, you know, saying one day, and we're going to sell millions of records, and we're going to do this and do that. So it was just something I always intuitively felt. It was just an inner calling. Like, you know, it was a drive of a, you know, saying, even through the bad stuff, that I just felt it was always going to work. And that's what motivated me, even when things got bad, to just keep going. Cause I just felt it. Even from the group Out of Order up into Meeting Zoe and to the DTP, you know, saying period. I felt it. I definitely felt it.
You know, that's some good information to let them know to keep pressing on, man. To keep pressing on, to come to that, until you come to that place of where you arrive to where you're trying to get to. You have to go through that storm. Now, did you know Right There was gonna hit and do what it did?
I mean, we felt it, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know if it was just the cockiness and the arrogance at the time that we had. We felt every record was a hit. You know how that is. Like, you know, this song is hot. This song is hot. So, but we knew it was hot enough to put on that demo. But we wasn't pushing for that record. You know, sometimes you don't hear it sometimes. And it takes other people to be like, nah, that's the one, you know. So, but we knew it was strong. That's why we put it on there. And when Chingy just did DJ Vlad, you know, he was right about that. Right there was the first beat, you know, saying that I played for him. And when we played it, you know, he just heard it instantly and just kind of went with it. Like, I'll say this, like, out of all the songs that we recorded and cut, that was the one we had the most feeling out of. So we knew it, but we thought we had other hotter records.
What did you work on next after you produced that particular track? After it did well and had success, what was the next move?
We had already had Chingy album done. So prior to Right There, we already recorded like 20 or 30 songs. So One Call Away, Holiday Inn with Snoop, like all of those songs were already done. You know, so after the Rights their success when we had signed with Capitol, we had already picked the format pretty much on what it was going to be. So we already knew ahead of time that it was going to be right there. It was going to be Holiday Inn, and it was going to be One Call Away. So we already kind of had it structured already.
And with that success, that led you guys to who was next after Chingy, after that major success with Chingy?
Well, after Chingy, I'll say the newest artist that we worked with, as far as like a not an artist that wasn't known, was artist Houston, and he had a song I like that, and that was featuring Houston, Chingy, I-20, and Nate Dogg. So that was like the next biggest thing that the Trak Starz done outside of Chingy. That was a new up and coming artist.
Now you work with many artists and you experience countless studio sessions. So can you share what it was like doing a specific studio session in LA involving Suge Knight's team during the Death Row era?
Oh man, the notorious run in with Suge. So basically we had a situation where it's a producer from St. Louis named Popo. And Popo produced Baby Huey record Pop Lock and Drop It. And I know his manager Doty, me and him grew up together. And he was our manager. So, and he was managing Popo as the producer at the time. So when Popo did the Baby Huey record, we was like, you know what, we can get you a publishing deal, because me and Zohad did a publishing deal with this company called Rondo or Universal. It's basically in the Universal Music Group. And so we was like, we'll get y'all the publishing deal. So we called our publisher and they was like, we interested in doing this deal, which they end up doing. So we end up flying Popo and Doty out to California. So, we introduced them to the publishers and introduced them to the label, and, just, took them around. So later on that night, my publisher called back, Kevin Hall, and he was like, why don't y'all take Popo to the studio and work on some music? So we was like, cool. So they opened up the studio for us. We went into the studio, and back in that time, we was young doing our thing. So we had some drinks. What we would kind of typically do, get some females, get some drinks going, make some music. So just a regular night, call some girls out, and so some girls sitting in the studio, we all working. So I seen these two girls standing by the door. So I don't remember them coming in with the rest of the girls. It was just weird. To this day, I don't even know where they came from. So they just standing there. So we in the studio having a conversation about Death Row, just basically barbershop talk. We talking about Death Row and Suge Knight and what we would have did and what somebody wouldn't have did. Anybody, things that anybody would talk about. So Popo manager Doty was like, well, I wouldn't have let Suge Knight do this to me. He wouldn't have did that to me. I would have whooped him, and I'd have, he was just talking or whatever. So come to find out, it was Suge Knight's daughter and his girlfriend, the girls that I seen standing at the door. Mm-hmm. So they leave the studio after we get done talking, and call Suge, and tell him what happened, that we was talking bad about him and disrespecting him in front of them. So me being intuitive, that night I told Zoe, I said, man, let's get out of here. I didn't feel nothing because we didn't know nothing was going to happen. We didn't think anybody did anything wrong, just another night. But for some reason that night, we end up leaving early. Something intuitively was like, let's go. And we end up going to a club and leaving early. So to make a long story short, we end up flying back to St. Louis. And I think about 3 or 4 days later, I get a call. And Ty Loke, Ty Loke was this Crip out in California. He's rolling 60 out there. And he called us and was like, y'all can't come back to LA. And I'm like, huh? I was like, this gotta be a joke. You pranking me, bro? Like, he like, nah, y'all can't come back to LA. We just got a call from Suge. And they said that y'all Trak Starz is banned from California. And I'm like, for what? We didn't do nothing. And Ty Loke was like, well, that was his girl and his daughter there. And they said that y'all had somebody there with y'all that was talking bad about Suge and disrespecting him in front of his family. And I'm like, no, nobody disrespected Suge. We were just having barbershop talk. We don't even know Suge Knight to disrespect him. You see what I'm saying? So to make a long story short, it's this guy named Big U. And anybody know Big U? He like this notorious Crip out of California that kind of squashes things. I think he managed Nipsey Hussle. So they end up getting Big U on the phone and end up getting Suge's people on the phone and Suge. And we all had a conference call to end up scrapping it. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying, we was just letting Suge know that it was a misunderstanding. It was just barbershop talk. We didn't even know that was your daughter and your girl. We like, it was no physical threat, no personal threat on you. It was strictly death row talk. Just like people in the barbershop talking about LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony, some basketball player or something. So Suge was like, okay, so we end up working it out, and they lift the ban. So he was cool. And funny is, we came back to LA and end up running it. We end up running into Suge at at some type of, at a restaurant. I think it was Mr. Child's or some restaurant out there. We
Yeah.
ended up running, and it was cool. It was all mutual love, but that was scary as hell. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm like, what? We came back, hey, like, wow. So yeah, that was a real run-in. So before I end it, so what's funny is, when we left the studio, Intuition, once again, they said there was like 3 fleet of cars that showed up to the studio looking for us. So we ended up missing them in the nick of time.
Wow,
So
man.
if we stayed at that studio, Lord, what would have happened? So we got time.
That's a scary situation there.
Very.
Yes. How did you guys end up working with pop artists? Now, how was that, working with pop, going from hip hop and then working with pop artists? I know you guys was working on some Britney Spears projects. So how did that go?
The way that the Britney Spears project came into play is that after the whole DTP success with Chingy, and we had sold millions of records and all these things happened, you know, Shaka got kind of busy. So Shaka and us, which is me and Zoe and the Trak Starz, started to part ways a little bit. And as we started to part ways, me and Zoe started working ourselves and start picking up things ourselves. So I want to say probably a little bit after that, we end up kind of like cutting our ties with, not cutting them off as like we had an issue with them, but we end up cutting our ties with DTP and end up bringing in a manager named Larry Rudolph. Larry Rudolph was Britney Spears' manager. He had a company called Rudolph Entertainment. Him and Adam Lieber. I believe Adam Lieber is still managing. I think he managed Lil Nas X or something like that. So Barry Hankerson, who was Aaliyah's uncle, who signed us to the record label Blackground, end up like connecting that whole Larry Rudolph thing for us. So by Larry Rudolph being Britney Spears' manager, you know what I'm saying, you know, he was the one that connected us with the remix and the actual songs that we did do for Britney Spears and Madonna. So yeah, that's how that happened. It was basically a connection through Larry Rudolph and Adam, who was managing us at that time, after we left Shaka Zulu and DTP.
Man, so you guys did work with Madonna also?
Yeah, so the song that we did with Britney Spears, Madonna was on it. It was a song called Me Against the Music. Yeah, they both was on the record. Yeah, with Larry Rudolph and Jive Records and Barry Weiss, who we had a relationship with at the time too. He was the president and one of the owners over at Jive at the time. Yeah,
so I don't want to go, move past that great accomplishment as far as what you guys did, as far as going back to, I say, Chingy's. Now, was that platinum? Was that a platinum album or diamond with Chingy?
To this day, it's at like 5 or 6 million, close to diamond down there. Like yeah, because you know, when streaming came in, it kind of started like factoring things a little bit differently as far as the numbers. So yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was like, because I know we started off at like 3 or 4 million, and then it went to like 5 or 6. So I don't know what the exact count is now, but I know it was like, I know we probably at about 6, maybe a 7 counting streaming now. So close to diamond, yeah.
So how does it feel, man, that when you looking back at your life and you looking back at where you started from, and then you guys collectively working and selling over 20 million records, man? I mean, how does that feel to know that this is what you've done?
When you're going through the moment, I always kind of compare it to this. It's just like a basketball player when like LeBron James gets a triple-double, and after the game, the interviewer will say, did you realize you had this triple-double? How does it feel? And LeBron would be like, well, I didn't even know I had a triple-double. Like, what was my numbers? Like, and she'd be like, 18 rebounds, 20 points, 10 assists. Like, wow, I didn't even know that. So I'll compare it to that a little bit. It kind of feels, when you're going through it, you just go through it. It don't really hit you to kind of later, just like him, like after the game, like, now I really had that. So when you're going through it, you just kind of going through it. but it don't really hit you to after everything is over. Like, man, like we really did this, but that goes back to what we were saying earlier, where it's kind of more of a calling. Like
Mm.
when you do things for more of a calling, you know, what I'm saying you're not chasing things. You're just kind of doing what you naturally feel, and you don't think about those things. You know what I'm saying, as you're going through it. So
Right.
I say honestly, with me, it didn't hit me to way after the success. I was just laying in the room one day looking at the plaques, and uh, I think Ludacris, we had just won a Grammy for Ludacris album Release Therapy. That was the first Grammy we won. And I remember winning that Grammy, and that's when it hit me. I'm like, wow. I just kind of woke up out of that working trance, everything we had been going through, and was like, man, this is like really real. But like I said, when you're going through it, you don't really feel it because things are happening so fast.
Man, I remember later on in the midst of your success, the Track Stars, you came and picked up me and Mel one day, and think you had a Bumblebee Charger, and
Yeah.
and we went out to your house, to the studio, and I remember well, you guys out, we walk out in Orlando Pace across the street waving, and from the Rams. Uh, Good times, man. I remember sitting in the theater and we watching some old New Edition material.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you said, see, Keith, man, when you have a vision and dream and you work hard, you can accomplish this. And I never forgot that.
I love to inspire. That's my thing. Like even where I'm at today, like it's just all inspiring. So that's dope that I was able to inspire you and to see your podcast, which I took a look into, and I'm like, man, this is subscribers are coming up. This is soaring. So yeah, man, I'm glad you stuck with it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. We know the hip hop culture has evolved through various culture movements, from gangster rap to dirty south to crunk to trap and drill. Now, do you believe another significant shift in the genre is on the horizon?
Yeah, I think it is. I feel that the music industry, uh, in a whole, as you see, is in a lot of trouble right now. It's starting to shift. I feel that the era of music, like you said, like the drill. I'm not one of them type of people where I like to down things. I feel like music is evolution, whether you like it or not. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to always change. The guys in the '90s, saying, didn't like the guys after them. They, saying it always goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I do feel like hip hop, from where we came, and with real production, songwriting, and really developing artists. I don't want to blame it on the artists. I want to blame it on more of the industry. I feel like when we came into the industry, it was artist development. We took Chingy in and developed him. We wrote, produced, arranged, made sure those songs was right. And at that time, everybody in the industry was doing it that way. Saying on why, from my perspective, it was thriving so well. I feel that
Mm-hmm.
when technology came in, the internet and things started to change, that's what started shifting the music industry. Uh, it started to take away the songwriters. It started to take away the producers. It started to take away the artist development, which started to take its own course. Now, some of it through that mix was pretty good, but it was a lot of bad music, which kind of ended it in this dark place that you see that's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the good news is I do see a shift happening. I think the labels are realizing that it was a fad that they were chasing, and that fad has ran out, and they're not making money off that fad. And I think that they're finally starting to realize that we have to go in another direction. And not only that, too, the world is catching up.
Yeah.
Another thing, back then, we didn't have the internet, so you didn't know about Afro beats. You didn't
Right.
know about this genre. You didn't know about the Latin genre, but now everything is connected. Where the world, like those, like K-pop, like for example, over in China and Japan, like those artists are being developed like artists was 15, 20 years ago. Afrobeat artists are being developed like artists in the United States were 15, 20 years ago, and that's why to me they are surpassing us right now because they stuck with the formula and we kind of went away from it. But I think the industry is so much in shambles right now that the executives they have no choice but to come back to that formula. They know because I tell people all the time, music is still selling. Don't get it twisted. Like, Taylor Swift is still selling out stadiums. Burna Boy, the Afrobeat artist from Nigeria, still selling out records. Adele can go pack out a stadium tomorrow. So, but those pop artists are still being developed. So, I feel that the industry have took a note out of their page saying, "Hey, we got to go back to that." And that's why you seen, I think it was Atlantic that dropped all of those artists, like over 50 or 60 artists. Universal dropped a ton of artists. I seen Gucci Man the other day saying he was dropping all his artists and only kept 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people are finally starting to realize that spell is up. We got to go back to making good music again.
Music is going to go back to actually bands playing again and like it was with R&B.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we lost the essence. We lost the passion. We lost the creative nature to create. I always tell people what always made me successful, even up to some of the projects that I'm working on to this day, has always been creativity. To me, the creativity is missing. People are just taking beats off YouTube, which I don't knock people hustle, but it's the problem is that it's too many artists right now, because it's a blessing that we all can get easy access to distribution. Back in the days, you had to fight to get distribution back then. Everybody could get distribution, but now you can go to TuneCore, DistroKid, United Masters, and anybody can upload a record. So it's a blessing that you can get your music out there. But the curse of that is that hundreds of millions of people are doing the same thing. And then you got social media where you're seeing 100 million things over and over and over, and the people's attention span is getting shorter. So it's harder to capture the mind of people. But my remedy have always been creative. When Kanye came in, who's a friend of ours, we've had the pleasure of meeting Kanye, talking to him. And Kanye's one of those people that he's always going to outsmart you. He's going to outthink you. He's always going to be 5 or 10 years ahead. And that's what you got to be, because it always comes a time in the music industry where it gets cluttered. And you have to be 5 and 10 years ahead of that. And how do you do that? From my experience, is pure creativity. People didn't like Right There when we first did it. I remember when Shaka took it up to Def Jam and took it up to Sony Records and a couple of other labels, and everybody shot us down. Nobody liked Right There. And it wasn't that they didn't like it. It was just too advanced. It was too ahead of what the industry was doing at that time. And we got shot down by everybody. And I remember Shaka calling us back and was like, ain't nobody feeling this song. And, but he was like, we believe in it, so we're going to press it up and put it out ourselves. They don't know what they're talking about. Same thing happened to Ludacris when they did Ludacris. He was like, they said the same thing about him. You know what I'm saying? So that's the good thing about being independent, is that you don't have people blocking you anymore. Yeah. You can go and put out records, because they don't know what hit records are, because they just living in the music industry to make these hit records. And sometimes they get jumbled because they'll start copying off this artist, copying off that artist, because everybody is just surfing to get a hit, to keep the lights on. I get it. Right. And they don't have the patience to really develop. So that's kind of what happened to us. But because he believed in it and went through it with Ludacris, that's what gave us our shot of creativity. I've always struggled with that, with like being creative, because I think that it scares people sometimes. The easy way is always looking at what Gucci Man doing, and looking at what what the next hottest artist is doing, and just copying that and put it out. But it's not as easy to create something new, and it scares people sometimes. But my thing is, it always works though. That's the thing. Like it may take a little time, but it's going to work.
Yeah.
So that's my take on that.
Yeah, it's a good, a great perspective, man. Name 5 top artists that people probably didn't realize you guys work with.
A lot of people, going back to the Britney Spears and Madonna, it's still a lot of people that don't know that we did that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can throw that in there. A lot of people don't realize me and Zoe did the Houston record, which was one of our biggest records. I Like That with Nate Dogg. They'd be like, I did that? Like, yeah, we did. A lot of people don't know we did that. It's a underrated record we worked on with Ludacris. Now I'm going more into a song right quick with this one. Called Sweet Revenge. That was one of my favorite songs. It was off of a DTP compilation they put out. And a real quick story on that particular song, being that it's coming to the Halloween season, is that the guy that played the Michael Myers music, the dun 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 dun, dun, he actually tried to sue us for that record, for Sweet Revenge. So when you pull up Sweet Revenge by Ludacris, when I played those pianos, it kind of sounds similar. But I wasn't even thinking about that record when I did it. I just did it kind of in that same formula. But he ends up hearing the record and he tried to sue us. That was funny. But we end up beating the lawsuit. The judge and everybody that seen the case knew that we didn't take it from him. So that was an underrated record I throw in that pile. But really, we did some work with Tony Braxton. We did some work with Tony Braxton. That's when we signed with Black Ground Records with Barry Hankerson, who was Aaliyah's uncle. Tony Braxton and man, it was so many.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, especially at that time, it was a lot of. Yeah, we did a record with Faith Evans.
Oh, okay.
So we did a record with Faith Evans, and we did a record with the artist Pink.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. See, I didn't know none of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was the good thing about the Trak Starz run, is that a lot of producers don't get the opportunity to cross over into the top 40 market, which is more like Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake and those type of artists. So that was a blessing for us that we got an opportunity to break over into that world, as well as the hip hop world. We got a chance to see both worlds, which was dope. Yeah, that was a cool experience.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. What projects are you working on now?
Right now I'm not with the Trak Starz anymore. I have another company, another production company I formed called Interstellar Music. And I'm still a owner in Trak Starz, but that's just another company I started. So Interstellar Music is me and my business partner, Tobin. His production name is Virus. I've been knowing him for a long time. He was on tour with Beyonce, one of the dopest musicians, saying, in the city as far as the keys. His name is Tobin. That's why he got the Tobin name, Beethoven. That's how good. Okay. So he toured with Beyonce, was one of her main keyboard players and all type of stuff. So me and him formed the production company Interstellar, and that's what we're working on now. So right now we have an artist named Aubriana. She's an R&B artist, pop R&B, that we have signed to Ingrooves Records. Ingrooves is a branch under Universal Music. So we're working on her, and let me see. It's an artist named Odd out of California too that we're working with. She's a Jamaican and white artist. That she's a throwback artist too, crazy too. Like she reminds you of back like in the early 90s when they was doing like pure pop, hip hop, and R&B records, real dope. And I met Odd through Mike Lynn, who was a business partner of mine too. And Mike Lynn, he worked with Dr. Dre at Aftermath for like almost 10 years. He was the one that signed Truth Hurts, who was from St. Louis. He had a part in 50 Cent, Eminem, Kendrick Lamar. He was the one that discovered Bruno Mars and signed him. Anderson .Paak. So me and Mike is business partners too as well in my new company Interstellar. And the name of his company is Big Ego Entertainment, and we just combine all our companies. So really, we're just focusing on working on some newer artists. Because me, man, I like working more with new artists than I do with major artists. It's more of a challenge for me. It's easy to go get a Beyonce record or something like that and throw it out. But to me, it's more of a challenge to get an unknown artist like a Chingy and raise them up. So I'm kind of more in that world. But occasionally we still get calls for like placements. Zoe just did something with Jack Harlow on the Jack Harlow album. So the Trak thing, yeah, we still in the mix out there, but you know what I'm saying? But my thing is just more of working with new artists, always breaking new talent.
And not only working with artists, you say you're doing some work on some animation too, right? Some kind of movie production.
Yeah, so right now I have an animation film that I got called Adinkra. And Adinkra is about these 3 urban teenagers that discover this mystical world beyond the ice walls of Antarctica. And when they go over to the ice walls of Antarctica, they find out it's a parallel universe. And to our world with these supernatural beings over there. And these beings are telling these kids that it's danger coming to our world. So these beings end up helping these kids develop superpowers and help them discover knowledge of who they were, and help them to come back here to teach people about this impending threat that we have on our world that's coming. So it's a Pixar style animation. We'll have the trailer done probably in about 4 weeks, hopefully by around Thanksgiving time. We'll be dropping it by then, and then probably next year sometime we're going to drop the full production. And Mike Lynn, who I work with Aftermath too, he's actually helping me in the production of that animation.
Man, you got your hands in a lot of things, man. I'm glad to hear you still going strong.
Oh yeah, man. It don't stop. You know what I'm saying? The hustle don't stop. It's a constant grind, and I feel like too, whenever you have drive, whenever you have purpose and passion, it's never going to stop. I always tell people that, like, your purpose is not done. I didn't think my purpose was over when Chingy's success was, fading away, and a lot of the things we did in the past. I always felt the drive to keep going, and whenever you feel that inner drive or that inner calling, you're just going to keep creating. Because I feel that we are creators. We are here to.
Right, yeah.
And as long as you have that passion and drive in you, like, you're going to keep creating. Is things differently now? Yes. Technology have changed things. As you see, the record industry is completely different than when we came in. So things are different, but we are still working within that. You know what I'm saying? And also too, a lot of labels and a lot of these executives are starting to reach back out to people like us now. Yeah. Like we're starting to get those calls again because they're like, we need these guys, to help us develop some of these artists we got sitting over here. We can't make no money. So the good thing about it is, and I knew it, it's a dear friend of ours that passed away probably about a year or two ago. His name was Clarence Avant. Clarence Avant, if you research Clarence Avant, he's powerful. Clarence goes back to Quincy Jones. He's been involved in presidents. He goes all the way back to Sammy Davis Jr. and stuff like that. He's like, Clarence Avant has been around the music industry for a long time. And Clarence Avant, they call him the Godfather of music. Yeah. If you go to Netflix, you will see his documentary on there. But Clarence was our mentor. And I remember Clarence told us one day, he said, the music industry is going to go in a different direction. And he said, guys like you guys are going to get pushed underground. But he said it's going to get so bad that they're going to call you guys back and you're going to be just as hot as you was now, at that time when it happens. So he called it. I always tell people that story. He called it. I was like, because when he's talking to us, I'm like, what is he talking about? Like, but he knew it. But that's why they called him the Godfather. He just knew things. Like, he just had a very powerful influence and understanding of how these things work. And he's absolutely right. And I'm watching it happen unfold before my eyes, where we're getting calls from labels and like, yo, we want you to work with this artist, because they want the real production back. So I don't really care to go back into that. Now, if it's an artist we like, or if it's something we feel, we'll do it. But like I said, we kind of more in developing new things, and then animation, and also me with spirituality, because that's what I put first before anything. I'm kind of more into the spiritual frequency, which I've been for the last 20 plus years on my journey. And especially as you see with Puff Daddy and all the negativity that's going on right now, saying that place, I kind of just rather not be in as much.
And then you have a lot of peace around you too, and yeah. Well, I'm very excited for you, man. I always have been a supporter of what you guys was doing. Yeah. So how can people get in touch with you or look you up on your social media platforms? How can they contact you?
Okay, well, I'm most active on Instagram, so you can reach me at Instagram at Shamar, that's spelled SHAMAR, Star STAR, Child, CHILD, and it's all together. So it's at Shamar Star Child. That's my Instagram. And if you want to find me on TikTok, you could just type in at Shamar Trak Starz Daugherty, and that'll be the same thing for Facebook. but mainly you can get me. You could DM me on Instagram. That's mainly where I'm at. You know, and because we're still looking for things. We're still looking for newer talent. I'm still looking for people to work with my film. So if there's anybody out there that knows the world of animation that want to get in on this, I'm definitely looking for people to collab with. So that's how they can reach me.
If you want to reach out to Sham and get involved in what he's doing, if you're an artist, if you're working in animation, there you go.
We got big budget. I know y'all like to hear about money, the color of the shirt. So we got big budgets. It's the real deal. Anybody that come in will get paid. So, definitely.
All right. I appreciate you, man. And I'm sure the viewers appreciate you, and they're going to be looking out for you and see what you got coming up and check you out.
Yes, sir. And it's an honor. Once again, man, congratulations to you on your podcast, and keep it going, man. And I'm gonna definitely root and put the word out there, start sharing your content. I didn't even know you did it. Like when I seen the message, I'm like, huh? Like I had to take a double look. Like that's Keith. Like, oh wow, that's my boy. Way back. I'm talking about way back. So yeah. So man, congratulations on your podcast and keep it going. And I'm definitely supporting, and I'll be sharing clips and putting it out there for people to see.
Blessings, brother. I appreciate it.